Hello everyone and welcome. I am Nathan with Good Mayhem Racing, and today I am working on Gabriel's Underlight kit. This DOS Underlight series is for Toyotas, like your 4Runners, your Tacomas, and this particular model is for the 95 to 97 Toyota Tacomas. Right now I am busting out the filler, the the support structure for the 3D printing material to make gaps in complex shapes. What I'm pulling out right now gives you clearance to put in a LED light. It is an XK glow. You'll see that probably here in a bit. I'm going to go through the process of installing the XK glows along with a whole bunch of wiring. So think of plugs and pins and crimping and wire cutting and everything like that. Yeah, that's the overall process of this video and how the DOS Underlights are made. Right now I am doing some deburr, trimming the fat off of the kit. There's a little bit of dross or support material left over, and I am just chiseling it out, making a nice smooth surface for everything to look clean later. I gotta do it to both of them. It's kind of a curse. Anytime I have to do a whole bunch of them at the same time, it's kind of miserable. If you notice, I'm actually wearing leather gloves. I don't need the gloves for the printing necessarily, but the gloves do a very good job of protecting my hands, and they also stop my skin oils from getting all over these parts. People are going to spray paint them, and that is, my skin oil is detrimental to somebody else's work. I'd rather not do that, so you will see me use gloves for a lot of the video. Here are the XK Glow LEDs that I was talking about before. I am a dealer for them. Good Mayhem Racing is anyway. And I install them in these Underlight kits. They have amber sequential flashers, and they also have white daylight running lights. I'm also a dealer for Laminex, so I physically buy their film and will apply it to these XK glows if someone wants a amber lens, smoke lens, or just a way to protect their investment with these XK glows. But you're not going to see that process today. We are just going to do lots and lots of wiring. The XK glows have 3 wires coming out of each of them. One is black, it is ground. The red one is for the white LED that would be used with daylight running lights, marker lights, or corner lights. The amber LED is the one that's typically used with sequential flashing, the turn signal, the hazards, anything that you want to have a flash. Well, so long as you're using the relay of your car to make that flash happen, yeah, you can use the ambers to replace your turn signals. It's really useful when you have an aftermarket bumper and you lose the OEM turn signals. That is really the biggest benefit of this Underlight kit. It came out of our experience of the Baja 1000. We were desert racing and lost our corner light and our turn signals because they were integrated into the same housing, and that whole lens just flew off the car during desert racing. So I thought it would be a wise idea to separate those back out. I mean, Toyota had the turn signal and the marker light separate back then. Nowadays they are a little more integrated. Even so, they're usually integrated into the headlight housing and even right below it. So why don't we put the turn signals in the same spot with the older gens? With aftermarket bumpers, without turn signals, without having any immediate place to mount an aftermarket one that you could get at a gas station. Well, this replaces an OEM filler plate on these 90s era 4Runners and Tacomas, and hopefully Tundras and Sequoias and what have you down the road. it's been a very cool learning experience. I have done about 180 of these so far this year. So that's not a lot from a market research standpoint. At the same time, I'm a single guy. Well, sorry, I'm married. I'm a single person in this business, and it's just been the effort of designing, manufacturing, fabricating, repeating, fitting, quality checks, repeatability with LEDs and whatnot, and supply chain. The supply chain stuff has actually been exceptionally complicated, especially with these little pins that you see me connecting here. Every single ground, amber wire, red wire, what have you, is connected to a Sumitomo OEM style connector, as in I am taking the connectors that are made to fit the OEM harnesses, OEM wiring harnesses, and fitting the XK Glow LED system into it. That way you can completely plug this into your truck and it works and it's good to go. There's a few different ways that the plugs can be wired up. The white LEDs are typically connected to the running lights. So those would use the corner lights Sumitomo plugs, both a male and a female, because these are supposed to run while your corner lights are also running. So when you turn on your running lights, your corner lights turn up and the white lights also turn on. The amber turns on with your turn signals. That is the initial idea. Granted, you could also use the ambers for running lights, but then they don't work as turn signals anymore. The whites inherently do not work as turn signals. At least I'm not seeing anybody try that at this point. The people who have asked for hardwire, they have the freedom to figure that kind of stuff out. But the one thing that both LEDs need, the white and the amber, is the ground, which is the black. You'll see me wire up some of the black wires here in a bit. I have, I use the ground that is connected in the turn signal system for the full LED. The black wire that is connected for the driving lights, the marker lights, the corner lights, whatever you want to call them, that black wire is just a pass-through, as in I am not using that to ground the LEDs. That's just connecting your corner light back to your wiring harness so it works right. You see how I'm trying to pull that one red wire next to that other red wire? That is how I'm able to wire up the marker lights in parallel. Get those two wires tied together, and now once the hot 12 volt turns on your corner lights, it turns on the white LED of the XK Glow. I don't have the best fitting insulators, like the little water resistant caps that go on the ends of these wires and crimps. So I'm just making do with what I got right now. I would love to get the perfectly sized ones later, but it's not in the budget right now. I need to sell more of these things. This one is the second to last underlight in the early bird group buy for the Toyota Tacomas. The Toyota 4Runner community was overwhelmingly helpful in making the 4Runner underlight kits possible, and unfortunately the Tacoma community was not. Now, I marketed the early bird Tacoma setup as just, hey, I need to design these underlight kits for Tacomas. If you're willing to work with me and send me pictures and measurements and dimensions, I will send you the kit that you've bought, and if there's something wrong, I'll send you another kit. I'll try to get things right, make the fit up good and everything like that. But unfortunately, some of the people that were in the Tacoma early birds really just wanted an in-stock product that was ready to ship, so I had a lot more refunds for the Tacomas than I had the 4Runners. I got about 20, maybe 25 orders for the early bird Tacomas, and I got about 150, 160 for the Forerunners. I maybe canceled 1 or 2 of the Forerunners for full refunds. There were some partial refunds, but that's because people bought 2 or 3 by mistake, and I was like, look, did you mean to buy 2 or 3? And they said, no, I just meant to buy 1. And I just sent them most of their money back. But with the Tacomas, I had probably 4 refunds for people that are just like, hey man, this is taking too long. And I get that. This is research and development. This is product development. I'm trying to design something blind. With the Forerunners, I definitely have a leg up in 2 reasons. One, first and foremost, I have a Forerunner in my garage. So I can go out there and design around it and check things hourly, if you will. I don't have a Tacoma, so I don't have that luxury with that kind of vehicle. And unfortunately, the Tacomas are monumentally more complicated than the Forerunners. There are 2 major iterations of the 3rd generation Forerunner. There is the 96 through 98 years and the 99 to 2002. What's really cool about all of those years, though, is they have the same filler plate, as in the part that I'm replacing on the vehicle is the exact same. What varies are the plugs. The turn signal plugs are different. Fortunately, the marker plugs are the same. So I had to source multiple different kinds of turn signal plugs for those vehicles, but it wasn't complicated. Like, I wasn't really scratching my head going, okay, which year is which one? Did it change mid-year? And that unfortunately happened with Tacomas. The Tacoma underlights are unique almost per year, merely because the Toyota Tacomas have different grills and different plates multiple times over throughout that 1st generation of Toyota Tacoma. I want to say the 95 to 97s have a grill design. The 98s to 2000s have a differing grill design, and the 2001s to 2004s, they have their own grill design. So instead of designing one underlight kit around an entire generation of vehicle, now I'm designing 3 unique, novel kits for one generation of vehicle. Unfortunately, the plugs are different too. Like, the plugs of that first batch of years is a lot more like the 96 to 98 Toyota 4Runners. But the 98, 99, 2000 Tacomas have the turn signal plug that matches the 4Runners of late. And for the 2001 to 2004 Tacomas, yeah, they have a completely different plug. And unfortunately, those plugs are really, really expensive. Like, I'm used to spending between $2 and $4 per plug, and the plugs for the 01 to 04 Tacomas is like $6. It's expensive. That, and it also has different actual connectors. Like all of these plugs that we've discussed up to this point are 2-pronged, as in you have a ground, you have a hot, you have 12 volts, and you got the 0 volt. With the, unfortunately, with the later years of the first gen Tacoma, they have a 3-prong plug. So now you have to worry about where the ground is, where the hot is, and then even wonder if the person replaced it and now they're all in the wrong spot. One of the guys that bought into the early bird series, he said, hey man, just letting you know, I have replaced my plug and it works and everything, but just letting you know that the pins might be in the wrong location if the people installed their stuff differently. And that is a level of inconsistency that is very hard to design around, because these vehicles are 20 years old. if not more. Some are pushing 30 years old now, 28, 29 even. And unfortunately, when people maintain their vehicles, I am I am very, very guilty of this, but when people maintain their vehicles, if they can't find the perfect part, they're just going to find something that works, and then you're having to manage your manufacturing around some major assumptions that they have not done that stuff, when in fact they have. I'm willing to sell these things as hardware only, as in you get those 3 bare wires and you get to go to town on how they mount up to the truck. If the buyers are electrically inclined, it's great. But for the people that have no experience with wiring at all, it's kind of freaky. Even though on the grand scheme of things, this level of wiring kind of hits a level 1 on the complexity scale versus everything else that's happening inside a vehicle. Even the 90s eras Toyotas have a lot of electronics in them. They really do. If people can just plug it in and play with it, it's great. And I even sold a particular wiring setup that was called the OEM plug and play, where you would just mount the LED turn signals in parallel with your regular turn signals, and it completely changes the front look of the truck. It also lets you be more cost conscious and use the OEM lights as the Hyperflash fix. And I haven't even really talked about that yet in this video. LEDs have such a strange characteristic about them, from an energy consumption standpoint to their impedance and stuff like that, that they do not have the same resistance, or impedance if you will, as the incandescent bulbs that they're replacing. You have to have a load resistor or swap out a relay or something like that to make your car think that there's no bulb out. There is a problem though. If people want to maximize the convenience of the install, just adding a load resistor to it, wiring it up and mounting it up to a metal surface or a metal plate is the way to go. Unfortunately, a lot of people will just zip tie this huge honking resistor to a piece of plastic, and then it melts through the plastic after their flashers have been on for several minutes. If there's a piece of metal nearby, it's a very reasonable solution, but the better solution in my opinion is to replace the relay that's inside the car. Underneath the lower left hand side of the steering wheel and console area, like, there is a fuse box that is next to your left knee in these 90s Tacomas and 4Runners. I bet it's also in the same location for the bigger vehicles, but I've never tried. The turn signal relay is in there, and the OEM one has a baked-in sensor that can recognize when the bulbs are out. You just pop that relay out, put the new relay in, and now your whole system is LED ready, as in you could replace the lights on all corners of your truck to be LEDs rather than incandescent bulbs, and your system does not care. The actual relay part number is called an EP35 relay. If you buy it from Asia or eBay or something like that, the generic part number is CF14. That is the other designation for this relay. There's also a C12 or C13 relay rather than the C14, and those ones are wired up backwards. As in, they won't work. They won't set your car on fire, but they just won't work. So don't use those. Rather than being a plus voltage positive, they're like, as soon as the system turns on, it like releases the ground, which is not the way this truck works. Where are we on the video right now? Oh, I have already done a lot of installing, as in the wiring has been crimped and made it up to their joints. I am now adding the underlight kit as a whole, integrating it, putting it together, taking the LED and installing it in the 3D printed body and using little tiny screws. I tried very hard to use metric only everywhere I could, and here in the States the hardest thing to get metric are little tiny plastic screws. Especially ones that are stainless steel. Like, I can get number 4 stainless steel hardware that is very affordable and cost effective, or I can get nearly the same size with the metric equivalent and spend 10 times as much. Sorry, I'm not doing that. So even though I try very hard to not mix my metrics and my imperial parts, it's happening on these particular underlight kits. I don't have a cheap way to get around that. If I did, I would. But I start working on this second one here, and unfortunately I break it. I put too much force on the screws, overrode the stop. I have like a little back wall that the screw goes into to stop it from penetrating out the front, and I put way too much force into that one and busted right through it. So let's just grab another one and do it again. I only need one of the parts, so the rest of it is just going to be put to the side now. But that other filler plate that I just broke, I'm going to throw that away and sit and ponder how I can prevent that from happening in the future. It's a very tiny interface, and these LEDs were originally designed to be mounted from the front. I'm mounting them from, or like mounting them with their back plate. I'm mounting them from their front plate, so you don't see the screws or anything like that. That's the reason why this is a possible risk with the underlight kits. I have successfully navigated that issue with these screws up to this point. That was actually the first underlight kit or underlight body that I have broken so far by over torquing it. The other ones were a different material for the most part, and I think the extra flexibility that the previous material had, I might have been relying on too much. The material that I previously used was something called PETG. That is a fairly good 3D printing material for outside use, but there are particular blends of it that are UV stable and are good in all weather. PETG HF was one such material, and it got released earlier this year. So I transitioned from making these 3D printed parts with regular PETG to PETG HF, with the priority and focus of transitioning to a better material for outdoor use, such as ASA. ASA is the material that I've been wanting to print with this whole time, but I didn't have the infrastructure to do it at home. Sure, I do have the 3D printer that's rated for it, and it does a great job of it, but there was a whole bunch of health and safety precautions that I needed to take care of around it, and also needed to design these parts around that changing material. Unfortunately, ASA is prone to warping a lot, and it really needs to be a composite material to be dimensionally stable at all, as in having a hope or a prayer of making it good to go. So I'm using a carbon fiber doped version of this to make it work out well. And check it out. You are now seeing the QC, the light test, me plugging it into the truck. I'm using the truck as a test bed to make sure these things work. Both the cautions, turn signals, running lights, and that's what it'll look like in the early years of Tacomas. So I'm going to do some final screw additions that people are going to need for their actual install, and do some packing, get it packaged together. Yeah, this was a cool little night. It was about 2 or 3 hours of the work to get to this point. Just a lot of learning. I'm trying to do this slow, do it right, That way I can make it a repeatable process later. These little boxes are what I'm shipping them in. And I try to use up my stickers, the ones I got laying around. And that's what it looks like when it goes to your door. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on the desert and not my garage. And again, Tacoma peoples, it's a thing now. Catch you later.